Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. Stroking a cat off to the side?
Yeah, I'm doing that thing where I'm like rubbing underneath their chin because they have their
Uh,
chin pointed up.
yeah.
But she's in ecstasy. She loves it. She like has her eyes closed and smiling.
Oh yeah, no. One of my cats enjoys that very much.
Yeah.
Some of the others not so much. But yeah, they have their own taste, they have their own likes, dislikes. This is a horror movie show. We talk about horror movies on this. And in this episode, we are going to be talking about Graduation Day, which was the winner of the Patreon vote for the month. And the theme was all like sort of end of school year kind of stuff. So this is the one that won out. This is a slasher movie from 1981, directed by Herb Fried. So we are
Classic director.
classic director. Yeah, I've heard of him. All right. It does star Christopher George, who's notable because he was also in Pieces and a few other movies before this.
Oh, yeah. He
I
also has
recognized him
two first names.
Indeed, he does. Yes. But I recognized him and thought, he's been in something else we've reviewed. And I looked it up. He's in Pieces. Okay, all right, cool.
We did pieces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jesus, Tim.
Well, I've seen it a bunch of times. I just forget if I watched it for the show or if I just
Yes, we talked
Sure,
about Pieces. You can go find the Pieces review. Go search Screams After Midnight Pieces, and you'll find it. Anyway,
It was a good one.
It's a good one. It's a fun movie. So, as a slasher movie, we'll start spoiler free, as we always do, and we'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers.
And if someone doesn't know, what exactly is a spoiler?
It's when you reveal a detail about the story that will ruin the enjoyment because it spoils the surprise.
Oh, very good. Good job. You pass. You graduated.
Thank you. Oh, you the professor again? Are we bringing this joke back where you think you're the professor of horror movies?
That's right.
Uh-huh. Sure.
I'll bring out the diploma. Don't make me.
so, so this is a slasher movie, and we
Yeah, you
start.
said that.
I know. I'm reiterating it. This movie starts with like the most upbeat non-horror movie music of all time. It's like so cheery
Oh, yeah.
and like happy. It's like, what's going on? And it's the opening title sequence, but it's all very relevant because it's taking place over like the school's like sports competition. We got all the athletes doing their track and field and all the rest of it. And it's all building up, and everyone's you got pole vaulting, got your long jump, and you got all the various things. And it ends with the whatever race it is at the end, and it finally turns dark at the end, and this is the setup for the movie, is that the girl who's running keels over after the finish line and dies. It turns out, we find out later on she had a blood clot, and that's why she died. So, we cut to 6 months later, whatever it is, and her big sister, who's in the Navy, is coming back home for graduation day. And there's a big giant sign in the street saying graduation day, which, I mean, maybe small towns do this, but I've never seen like the entire town celebrate the fact that the high school's having its graduation.
No. Like when I graduated, like the school itself would have like a little not like a billboard, but like like a little sign thing they'd write messages on. So they would say like congrats to class
But
of 04 or whatever.
Yeah, but this is like a main street.
Oh yeah.
Of the town.
They
Just...
wouldn't do anything like that.
Yeah, that is okay. Fair enough. Whatever. Anyway, so she's back home, and here's the funny thing about this movie is that it sets her up like she's the main character, and I guess she kind of is, but the movie like spends so much time away from her.
Oh yeah.
you almost forget she exists by the time she comes back for that one scene in the middle, and then the last like 15-20 minutes when everything goes down. But so I guess that's my first criticism. It's got a kind of a weird focus attention span in that sense.
I think the movie is trying really, really hard to make you guess who the killer is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you spend time with so many different people because it's like really wants you to be like, ooh, is it this person? Or, ooh, is it this person? To the point where it's like kind of ridiculous.
There's really only two real suspects. There's two that they really drive home. It's one of these two. And obviously we'll talk in spoilers who the killer is and, so on. But, hey, do you want to talk about, like, she's hitchhiking into town from the airport?
Oh, yeah.
Navy sister, we're going to call her. Her name's Anne. We'll call her Anne. Everyone else can just be described, but she's Anne. And the movie starts from the truck driver's POV where he's just looking at her legs, and he's all like, and he's making these stories, and he's like, hey, did you hear about those two Navy girls, from this town? Right? And I'm like, okay, and I thought when he started talking that, oh, he's going to tell her about this murder. He's going to bring up like a crime or something that's going to lead into what the plot of the movie is. Instead, he turns around and says, yeah, I think they were a pair of lesbos. And I'm like, that was in the paper?
Yeah.
What?
It's in case you weren't sure, this is a Troma movie.
Yes.
So, this scene, just in case, like, people might not realize this is a Troma movie. It was kind of upbeat in the beginning, so let's just throw in like a creepy truck driver. And
then like he puts his hand on her thigh, and she's like, take your hand off of me. And of course, a classy gentleman such as himself responds with, "What? You're not one of those lesbos, are you?" Classy.
Yep.
So here's the thing. So the movie kind of sets up that she can take care of herself, because going back to the rampant sexism, her stepfather, when she gets home, is like just in front of his wife, just like, "Oh, what are you doing here? Nothing good ever comes from you being around." And then he follows her up to the, which, by the way, there was a really weird moment early on where she's like, "Oh, I'll just go up to my room," and the mom's like, "Oh, sorry, no, your room's been converted into like a dark room. Yeah, use your sister's room." And she's like, "Okay, do you want me to show you where it is?" And she's like, "No, I know where it is." And I'm like, "Of course she knows where it is. She used to have a room here. She lived here when she was up until she was 18. What?
Yeah.
She knows where her room is, you dumb old broad."
Yeah, there's a lot of I feel like a lot of weird little stuff like this that's just like, oh, like why are these people talking like this? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the stepfather's a big problem, because I feel like when they set up that he's this asshole and that he even tries to fight her, he follows her up to the room and threatens to beat the shit out of her. He's like, "Oh, you need a beating," and then she's like, "Hey, I've learned a lot of stuff in the military. You better back off." And it's implied that she can take care of herself, and he backs off. And I'm like, okay, fine, that's that scene. But I thought the point of this is that he's going to be the asshole who we enjoy seeing being killed later, and
yeah.
He's not even in the movie again, except one minor scene
at the end, which is like kind of bananas.
Yeah, like he's just gone from the movie. Like, I thought they were setting up how awful he was so that we'd cheer when he's dead. He's like, "Oh, they're going to kill him," and he's just not there. He's gone. What was the point of this? Like, I mean, sure, you could say the point was to show that she can take care of herself, but they already kind of did that with the truck driver, because she kind of like fights him off and gets out the truck. This scene just she tells us that she can take care of herself, but it doesn't actually show us her taking care of herself.
Yeah, I feel bad for her, because it seems like she is like a normal person just stuck in one of these like over the top towns where like every guy is just like immediately like threatened by her and like is trying to like assert their dominance, and like you kind of feel like the eye rolliness in her character. She's just like, all right, every time a guy talks to her, it's like, all right, here we go again.
And here's the thing, of course people start getting killed, right? We get obviously we'll talk about the kill sequences later, but I thought at this point it's worth mentioning, I saw this before like 2 or 3 years ago, and I remembered nothing about it.
Oh yeah.
Which actually,
I saw this.
I've not even asked the question. Tim, did you like the movie?
Well, I was just gonna say I saw this a couple of days ago, and I barely remember anything about it. Yeah, I would say I wasn't crazy about it. I wouldn't say that there's not fun stuff. Like, there was, like, obviously it's pretty cheesy. So there were parts that were, kind of funny in a, bad kind of way. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's just kind of forgettable. There's some funny stuff, but it's not like so like we mentioned earlier, Pieces, like, holy shit, that movie is so over the top. Like,
that movie is insanely funny.
Yeah.
For all the things it's doing intentionally and not. My biggest problem is, like I said earlier, it's so scattershot. It feels like after we introduce this character of Anne, we actually jump around so many other characters. And obviously the coach is kind of an important character. That's Christopher George's character. But we bounce around so many of these teenagers who kind of have like 1 or 2 scenes each, where we don't really feel like we get to know any of them, and it's just sort of like, oh, here's a murder scene, here's a scene where someone might be getting murdered, but they don't, so here's a murder scene later. They're all kind of like separate. And I thought at the start, at this point, even on my second viewing, because I'd forgotten everything, I was like, oh, it's okay, the movie is going to follow Anne, And once the murder starts, she's going to start looking into it maybe, and she's going to be like try to protect the kids or something like that. You know, as graduation is ramping up, because graduation is tomorrow, and you know, everyone's setting up for it. And instead, yeah, she kind of disappears. Like she goes to the school, and like the principal's like, oh, she'll be making a speech tomorrow because her sister died, and blah 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 blah. And then like she disappears for like 30 minutes. She has one scene with the coach, and then she disappears for another 30 minutes, and then the final like 20-minute kind of showdown kind of kicks off, and that's when she's important again. But she's gone for so long, and we're just kind of jumping around all these characters. It feels so scattershot that there's no, like, not that most slasher movies of this time, because I like a lot of bad slasher movies, right? But I feel like what this one's missing, and why I think it's ultimately kind of mundane and mediocre, is that it doesn't feel like there's any kind of like dry, like it's not like I get to know characters who then die. I just like meet characters and then they die like almost immediately.
Yeah, no,
like,
I'd agree with that.
I couldn't have named you a single character after I watched this.
By name?
Yeah, by name.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's traditionally how you name a character.
Well, I mean, I just meant like, you know, you could say stuff like, you know, you could say like the music teacher, or like,
oh
you
sure,
know,
yeah,
the boyfriend, you know, or whatever. Like, but yeah, as far as names go, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, it also does this really bizarre thing where it sets up a lot of characters who you assume are there to add to the body count, and then they don't die.
Yep. Yeah.
There's a lot of those characters in this movie where like, okay, they're here for the body count, and then nothing ever happens to them.
And I'd also say, like, why is it called graduation day? Like, I know obviously they're graduating, but like, everything is so track and field focused. Like the killer, it's not like the graduation day killer. It's like, he's more of like the track and field killer.
Yeah, it'd almost be like let's say he'd killed people at graduation the year before, so this year they're all worried that he's coming back. There you go, that's your graduation day slasher movie.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm already sold.
But this didn't really have anything to do with that. It just happened to be around graduation.
Yeah.
There's also a big thing with the killer. Once we find out who it is, there's a really big inconsistency in the motive and the logic with him that really bugs me. That really bugs me. So more on that.
What you're gonna say.
More on that in the spoilers. That's all I'll say. Some of the kills are not bad though. There's a couple of fun kills.
Yeah, I think kind of like you said, they're few and far in between. But I think when they do happen, again, cheesy, but you know, in a fun way that I enjoyed.
Yeah, there's two or three really fun cheesy kills. We'll talk about what they are specifically in spoilers, but I would say that at least has that going for it.
Yeah.
And you have some of the cheesy bad acting and so on. Unfortunately, I actually think it's overlong because it's 96 minutes, which for a movie of this type, actually, I did feel like I got to about the 75 minute mark and I thought, oh, this feels like it's wrapping up. And then I checked the runtime, and there was like 25 minutes left, and I went, wait a minute, how's there 25 minutes left of this? What are we going to be doing for 25 minutes? And it felt like it did drag out a little bit. Now, admittedly, the last like 25 minutes are probably the best 25 minutes. It's just that everything to get to that point just feels like it's stalling and spinning its wheels. So the pacing is the big problem, I think, more than anything else. Pacing and lack of focus.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often that I would say a movie should be less than 90 minutes, but this probably could have been an 85-minute movie or so.
Yeah, it should have been short. Absolutely. I guess we'll give the spoiler warning. I mean, if anyone cares about spoilers for Graduation Day, the trauma slasher movie from 1981.
Yeah. And if you don't know what a spoiler is, just go back to the beginning of this episode. Pete lays it out nice and clear, so shouldn't be any confusion from this point going forward.
What is this spoiler joke you've got going?
What? No, people might be watching and they might not know what it means. So I think it's a good heads up. I don't know what. I don't know why you're so confused about it. I mean, I guess maybe if you like to confuse our listeners, that's fine. But I don't know. I just like to, make sure everything is nice and clear, lay it out on the table, so there's absolutely no, befuddlement going forward. But hey, that's just me. I care about the listeners, so
give me strength. Give me strength. It's all going to be worth it. It's all going to be worth it.
Okay.
So, all right. My favorite kill was probably when the blade was attached to the football, and then the football was thrown at the football player.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's a good
Well,
one.
actually, I mean, I think if they'd shown more of the pole vaulter who landed, like the killer
On
who
the
put
spikes.
spikes on the mat, if they'd shown more of that one, and because we see the aftermath of it, but we don't get to see the actual, impalement.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
so I may
yeah,
have enjoyed that more had I seen more of it, but
okay, yeah, I think that's fair because yeah, I really like the pole vaulting spikes, but yeah, yeah, like you said, it's you don't really see like the actual act,
yeah.
which is kind of a um also there's I kind of I'd refer to it as like a very casual beheading, like
Yeah, I know what
it,
you mean.
like a guy loses his head, but it's in the most like I don't know, like I guess kind of like the softest, most non-dramatic way I've probably ever seen a head fall off in a movie.
I can't think of any other examples, so yeah, I'll sure we'll go with it. Yeah, so that was okay, and then there was a couple of just generic stabbings. I mean the fencing sword through the neck wasn't too bad either. Which
Okay.
I got confused actually because in that scene he was actually wearing like the killer was wearing a fencing outfit, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, he's just doing that because he's got the fencing sword. But there was another kill scene later on where he was also wearing the fencing outfit, and I'm like, wait, is that his costume? Is that what he's been wearing when he's been killing people?
Uh, did I don't remember. Did the fencing outfit have the black gloves?
I think so, yeah.
Oh wait, it was black gloves, right? Not
Yeah, that
or
was
was
that
it?
was the real key signature was that the killer always had
Yeah,
black gloves. So that was how they teased who the killer might be, is that
yeah,
everyone had a pair of black gloves.
yeah. It was like and oh, and he always has like a stopwatch too. But it's
Hmm.
like yeah, they really tried to make you guess because like it seemed like after every kill, then you would also see another character. It's just like oh, I should probably check my stopwatch and put away
Yeah.
my black gloves, and it's like oh, all right, I guess it could be this guy or this guy.
Yeah, because the two obvious suspects were the big sister Anne, because she maybe wanted vengeance because the coach drove her too hard, and she's killing off all the track team members because vengeance.
Yeah.
And then the other one's the coach himself, who might just be kind of sick. Because there's a scene where we see early on that he's really tested with the kids when they're like late for the photograph and stuff. But there's a scene later on where there's a photographer to like take photos of one of his star pupils, the girl, who does gymnastics, and he gets really like, no, get up there now, put your prissy little butt up in that pole and get to work. He's very very stern, and the photographer's like a nice guy who's like, yeah, no, it doesn't matter, it's fine, I can get a couple of shots, just a couple of quick things. But
Yeah.
she doesn't have to do the full routine or anything. It's like, no, bullshit, get up there now, you little bitch. Like that's basically his attitude, and um she goes up. She has this weird like thing where she falls off, and we get like little, like almost like flashbacks to the first kill of the movie, as if she's like remembering them, even though she wasn't there and didn't know about it. It's like a
Yeah.
psychic link. I don't know what's going on, but she goes back up and she does her full routine, and during the full routine, like you see the coach just kind of like staring and like smiling, and at one point the photographer even looks over at him and is like, "You're a creepy bastard," and takes some photos, and that's the end of it. Um,
I mean, I don't know if there are any good adults in this town. Uh, like, the stepfather obviously sucks. The coach is an asshole. The music teacher's a creep.
Oh yeah, the music teacher who is having affairs with multiple students to give them good
Yeah,
grades, and to the point where he's flat out just like, "Hey, you can come by my music club. I'll tell everyone you're my student." Yeah, and he's
yeah,
like flirting with them. And that was the thing. They set him up as if, oh, the killer knows about him because at one point he gets lured down into the basement of the school, and someone's recorded him having sex with a student. Which, by the way, some of the worst dirty talk I have ever heard in my life. I call this my little snake. First of all, no guy actively calls his thing little. Like there's a conscious thing that no guy wants to call his
yeah.
thing little, no matter how big or small it may be, right? And then on top of that, is like, oh, it's my little snake. It's like, oh, is it poisonous? Oh, it might be.
Oh.
I'm like, what? Shut up.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine like how they can already make this any grosser. Just the fact that it's like old, schlubby kind of music teacher guy
And guess what?
hitting.
He survives.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because again, like you pointed out earlier, like okay, we're setting up this piece of shit so that we can cheer when they die.
Yeah, same with the stepdad, same with the music teacher, and
Nope.
yeah, because like it never goes anywhere. The final time you see him is when he's flirting with a new girl, like after he's already had sex with the other one. Like that's the last
Yeah.
time you see him. There's no resolution to it whatsoever.
I feel like this is kind of like a thing that you used to see in slashers, like the older like teacher or camp counselor or something hitting on like
Yeah,
a young student. Like you
but
see it in a sleepaway camp, and
at least
I think
at least in most of them, though, there'd be an ending to it. Like, I mean, obviously, as
true,
problematic
yeah,
as the actual plot might be, at least
yeah,
from a script writing structure point of view, there'd be a conclusion to that plot in some way. This is just there, and then like it's just for
yeah.
one girl to get her top off in a scene. So we see some boobs, and then
Wait, did you say she's in boobs?
so you see her boobs.
Oh, I thought you said she's in boobs. Like
No,
that's just
no.
okay.
Confusing that with whatever you watched last night, Tim. Um, so he gets her boobs there, and then like we see him get threatened with a tape, and that's where I thought, oh, he's going to start tormenting the music teacher because of what he's doing, and this is all about vengeance, and that's why it was maybe adding to the, oh, maybe it's Anne because she knows about this, so she's like, you know, vengeance. But
Navy vengeance.
Navy vengeance. But no, nothing ever happens to him. It never gets brought up again.
No, probably still teaching.
Yeah, even when the detective shows up, even because when a bunch of the kids get killed, they don't show up next day for graduation. A detective comes in to investigate, and his attitude is basically actually the first thing he says to the principal is, "I really hate schools." He's like, and then the cop who we've already met, who's also an asshole, and we've seen him in multiple scenes, who just hates everyone. They both hate kids. They both hate everyone.
Yeah.
The detective's a bit more competent than the uniformed cop, but you know, not by much, admittedly. So, and then the principal is annoyed because parents keep calling him asking where their missing kids are, and he's like, "What is it with these brats are doing this to me? I'm having to take all these stupid phone calls. Tell them I'm not here, Blondie." His secretary, who he actively kind of abuses, also has a sexual relationship with, even though I don't know why that was ever brought up. Like, he kisses her at one point early in the movie. I'm like, okay, they're setting up a plot here with him and his secretary, and then all it ever comes to is she's annoyed that she has to keep lying for him over the phone, and it never goes anywhere. Neither of them die.
Yeah, actually recorded that scene on my phone and then sent it to a friend of mine who's a teacher because all they ever do is complain about parents. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I like. It's actually, now that we're talking about it, it's actually shocking how many like adult characters they set up. That they set up with little plot beats like, oh, this sheriff's like this, and this teacher's like that, and his secretary's having an affair with him, but she's like also upset with how he treats her, and like all these things, and none of them have any resolution. None of them have a conclusion.
Oh, yeah, and if you're gonna set up like anyone that is, you know, because obviously the killer is, you know, after it seems like they're seeking some type of vengeance against you know, the girl that died at the beginning. And yeah, if anyone is more responsible for that stuff, probably gonna be the adults more than the kids, the other track members and stuff.
Yeah.
So that the coach that pushes her, the stepdad that didn't love her, you know, the principal that wanted a victory for the school. It's not like, you know, those are the kind of people that would need vengeance.
You know, when I'm saying I want conclusions to these storylines, when I'm talking about conclusions in a slasher movie, when I'm thinking of other slasher movies with like subplots like this that have endings, what I really mean is they get killed.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying, really, is they get killed. Nothing complex.
Yeah, that's yeah, I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Also, there's a scene when Anne comes back for that one scene in the middle. She's in the school and she runs into the coach and they have a bit of a confrontation. And this is where you're like, oh, one of them might be the killer. But for some reason, I assume he also teaches shop because his desk is in the middle of like the workshop.
Oh yeah,
for the tech class, which is bizarre. I don't know why his desk was in there. That was weird. But when Anne walks in here at night, two of the machines just start working on their own. They turn on, and then he comes in. And he's like, "Oh, are you crazy, you stupid girl? These are precise machines. You can't have them on. They're dangerous." And she's like, "I never touched them." And I'm like, "Well, why did they turn on then? This is not a ghost movie. Like, why did these machines turn on? Like."
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Explain it to me, Timmy. Explain it.
The table saws have gained sentience after, I don't know, feeling bad for all the people that are dying.
Oh dear, we haven't even got to the ending, who the killer is and why he's doing it. So, and his motivation changes. So obviously, the two big suspects are either the coach, or Anne. And the twist is that eventually, when someone finds a body, right? Some of the girls find a body in a locker. No one knows anyone's been killed yet, right? Kids are going missing, but no one knows that they've been killed. And they find a dead body finally. The coach comes in and like sees the body as well, and they assume it was him that did it, and starts screaming that he's killed this girl. And then the one like kid that we've kind of known a little bit more, Kevin, comes in and kind of tackles him. And he's the kid who's been like, he was like friends with the girl who died, and he sent Anne a couple of letters explaining what was going on and whatnot. She met him at his house at one point earlier in the film. He turns out to be the killer. He chases after the coach as if he's the killer, but then he reveals that he's the one who's killed them all because he was in love with the girl who died, and you took her away from me. And they have this showdown, and then the cop shows up, the detective shows up, still thinking the coach is the killer, and shoots him. Right? So the coach dies, and it's like, okay, right, so now we're in a position where we know the killer's this kid, and we don't know what else is going on. After this, right, we never see a detective again, and that never gets brought back up, right? So Anne decides to go by his house to see how he is. She wants to see if he's okay, because from her perspective, he's been attacked and he survived, but we know that he's really the killer. She goes by the house, and she comes in, and it's kind of empty and creepy. She comes up to the bedroom, and obviously notices that there's like tons of swords and axes like on the walls. Like he's got a weird obsession with blades, and the corpse of her sister is there. And then he comes into the room and starts talking about her as if she's alive. Oh, we're going to get married right after graduation, like we planned. We're going to do this. Isn't it wonderful? And I'm like, wait a minute. His entire motivation is that he was getting revenge because they killed her, and he hated the fact that she died. And now you're telling me in the very next scene he's got this weird delusion where he thinks she's alive?
Yeah.
Like, these two motivations don't jive with each other.
Yeah, no, that's like a pretty big like disparity.
Now, don't get me wrong. You could tell me that he's so crazy that he goes back and forth, but the problem is his delusion has not been set up at all. It's just all of a sudden in this scene he believes this corpse is alive and he's going to marry her.
Yeah, but no, there's like no like it comes out of nowhere, and yeah, it's not like we haven't really spent enough time with him to get any kind of clear sense of the kind of person he is, what type of possible psychoses he's under.
Because that's the thing, like before this scene, like I mean, I don't want to say he's not crazy because he's going about killing people, but it seems like a very clear-cut revenge kind of like, I'm angry, I'm going to kill, and vengeance. Whereas this is, no, he's actually psychotic. He's like, raving mad. And that wasn't there before. All of a sudden, it's weird. Anne gets away by pushing her dead sister into him, and he goes out the window with the corpse. And then she runs off. It's a whole thing. And then it mirrors the opening scenes because she ends up running away from him on the same track that our sister died on at the start of the movie, and it's a whole thing. And I thought this whole, like, because obviously this is our final girl, right? Which again, we've spent not that much time with her, bizarrely. But here's the thing. So they set up that she can take care of herself. And I thought, well, you're still having her run away like she's the final girl who's scared of the killer. But what's interesting is that when he does catch up with her, and again, this is all broad daylight, so there's zero atmosphere for any of this. But when he catches up with her, she actually does like block the knife. Like he goes in to stab her, and she blocks it and kicks him and gets him on the ground. Like she does take care of herself. She kind of like, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. This is interesting. And then she immediately starts running again. She doesn't pick up the knife.
Yeah.
You see him pick up the knife like a second later. She runs off again like she's scared, and I'm like, you just showed that you can fight him. Fight him, damn it.
I mean, yeah, first of all, yeah, you have that scene where, she's showing off some moves, but then also throughout like the whole movie, all we've been hearing about is how badass she is, how she went to the Navy and she learned all these techniques and stuff. And
we love You're Next because the concept of You're Next is that the final girl's a badass and can actually kick the shit out of the villains. Yeah. Like, do that. But if it's this weird mix where it wants to do both, where it's like, no, she's still running and scared and screaming because she's a girl and she's the final girl and the killer's after her. But then he catches up to her and she's like, disarming him with like, fancy, fighting moves. And I'm like, and it was that fancy. It's pretty basically knife defense, but still, like, it's more than like you never see a character in a slasher movie just try and like block the knife. Like you never see that, but she does that. And then she ends up like sort of stumbling into like his like where he's hid all the bodies. They're all under the the bleachers, at the track, and she actually ends up killing him by pushing him onto the guy who landed on the spikes from the pole vault. He's like sort of like up against a door, and she pushes the killer into him, and he gets stabbed in the back and keels over, and that's how the movie.
Which,
Yeah.
not a horrible way to kill someone, but I mean, for your main villain, it's a little lackluster.
He's got no presence whatsoever. He is like
Yeah.
the lamest slasher villain I think that I've seen.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's. I'd have to go back and think about the rest of the slasher movies I've seen, but
Yeah.
he's on the low end of the
He's-
list.
Yeah, like, I mean, I kind of like the gimmick of you're killing people based on like these track and field events. Like, that's cool, but yeah, you don't really see more of it. Like, they are usually pretty quick, but yeah, if you'd see more, if the gore was better, and then maybe if he had more of a gimmick, like just the fencing suit didn't really do much for me.
Do you know what bugs me? Is that I can see the better movie in here. I can see them using
Oh, sure.
like use a javelin at one point to kill someone.
Yeah.
Those
A
various
shot put
things
or something.
Yeah, the shot put to the head. Why not? Like, I can see the ways to do this, and I can see it focusing more on Anne, making it more about her kind of like noticing something's wrong and trying to help, and actually being a badass and being able to take on the killer. But he feels like such a lame. Just like he does, just feel like a teenager with a knife. He doesn't feel like he's got any presence. He doesn't feel like a Michael or a Jason or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or
Definitely not.
or even something like the guy from The Mutilator or the guy from pick your slasher movie of choice.
Prowler or whatever.
Even the Prowler, which is obviously has nothing compared to Jason or Michael, but you still get way more presence than this.
Yeah.
So
Just one quick little scene that I did like. After she pushes him and the corpse out the window, I like that she runs downstairs, and then before she can go out the door, he kicks it open and walks in like holding the corpse like a newly married couple walking like over the threshold. So I thought that was kind of a cool scene, but yeah, it's again not not enough to be like, all right, this made the movie for me or anything.
Yeah, and of course there is one more scene before she leaves. There's a big fake out scene where she's asleep in her
so stupid
in her sister's bedroom, and she's woken up in the night because the killer, somehow still alive, is coming through the door with a knife, all in silhouette. He's coming to kill her, and then the light turns on, and it's actually her drunk stepdad holding a bottle of booze, who's just sort of stumbling around in the middle of the night, and she's like terrified. And I'm not sure what the point, because it's like sometimes you'll have this at the end of a slasher movie or even just any type of horror movie where the main character is affected by what they went through. But honestly, everything I know about her and how she handled all this, it doesn't make sense to me that she's like a nervous wreck after this.
Oh no, definitely not. Yeah, she shouldn't be.
It doesn't make sense to me.
And it's also just like so weird because it's so slow. Like, if you're gonna do something like this, it has to be quick. Like, you have to see the person, and then a second later, the light turns on, and it's like, oh, it's this guy. It feels like he stands there forever, and you're just like, what is going on? And then once they do turn on the light, it's like, all right, even if you are an alcoholic, no one holds a bottle the same way a killer holds a knife. Like, no one just holds it over the head. Like why? What are you doing? It was it was super stupid, but I did kind of laugh at the ridiculousness of it, if that means anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's some small moments here or there that do work, and there's some stuff that's funny bad, but the movie's far too scattershot, and like the stuff I was complaining about his motivation shifting, that could be fine if it was just silly enough that it was kind of funny, and there's almost a couple of moments where it does become that, but for the most part, at that point, I was just like, okay, hurry up and finish. I'm ready to be done with this now. Also, minor thing at the end, like she drives off in a cab to go to the airport, and the movie freeze frames as she's driving off, and it sort of like tints red before it starts rolling the credits, and then the credits are in red. It's like red on red. They are so awkward to read. Like, no. You do the opposite color.
I didn't notice that. I was like, just right away, like, all right, done.
Yeah, it's like they tint the image red, and then the credits are red on top of it. It's like, no, this is stupid. You don't.
That sounds absolutely awful.
Yeah, it's 101 color scheming 101. Ah, dear. Thanks, patrons. Thanks, patrons. It's not honestly like I'm tearing it to shreds. It's not the worst slasher movie I've ever seen. There's definitely much worse.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
It's just really in the thorough mediocre kind of. It doesn't get enough fun stuff right to make it work, and it's a bit overlong. So hey, and the characters aren't notable enough either. Is the other big thing. Like, there's not enough of any one or two characters where you feel like, oh, I really got to know them, and I was laughing at them consistently because of who they are. It was jumping around too much. So that's kind of that. So I guess, Timmy, we'll rate the movie out of 10 if you have a number in mind.
This one actually I feel like is a little difficult. Yeah, because like you said, it's definitely not the worst thing in the world. Like, I wouldn't say I was angry when I watched it.
No, I wasn't angry. I was just kind of bored more than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't typically go first, but I'll jump in with mine since you're thinking about it. I'd probably give it a 4.
Yeah. See, what I was thinking is, like, I was leaning towards 4, and then I was like, is that too high? But then I also feel like, well, 3.5 feels too low. I don't know. So it's I think I'll just go with the same, like a 4, but even that, it feels kind of weird because I don't know, I feel like 4 can, obviously a 4 is not a good movie, but I feel like it can still be kind of like a fun movie, which I guess has had some fun parts, but
that's just so strange. You're arguing that a 4 is like like better, too good to give to him. That's weird. Anyway,
I don't know.
Whatever, it's fine. So yeah, the 4's all around then for Graduation. It is definitely not the if I was listing you 20 or 50 slasher movies you should watch from the 80s that you should check out if you like slasher movies, this would not be on the list, I don't think. So, but hey ho.
It is streaming on Amazon Prime right now if anyone really wants to watch it.
Oh, there you go. Go check it out, I guess. I will say we have our next vote up. I think that's worth mentioning.
Sure.
It is. Our patrons can vote. If you're a patron of ours over at patreon.com/MailOfUsTV, if you're in the $5 tier or above, you can vote in our monthly vote. The vote this month is actually all Dario Argento films, which, believe it or not,
the Lord.
Yeah, believe it or not, we've never done an Argento movie, I don't think.
What?
I don't think we have.
Have we not done Phenomena?
No.
Oh, Jesus. All right.
That is not on the vote, for the record, as well, by the way.
Oh, of course, one of my favorite movies. Why would it be on the list?
Tenebrae,
Nice.
Deep Red, Cat o' Nine Tails, and Bird with the Crystal Plumage are the 4 that are on the vote. So, by all means,
no Dracula 3D.
No Dracula 3D, no. So you can go check out that vote and give it a vote. And of course, if you are a patron or you're going to be a patron, obviously that supports us, helps us keep doing what we're doing. Obviously, you can also support us by liking, subscribing, commenting, and letting us know what you think of the movie. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates and that kind of thing.
Say, if you just found out you're going to be a patron, definitely let us know. Be like, hey, surprise! Guess what? We just found out we're going to be patrons.
Oh dear, Timmy. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies. We will be back next week with something else. I know what it is. I keep it close to my chest. I don't want to tell them.
What? I feel like I was just watching. I think it was like Last Man on Earth, where Will Forte had a line or something where he's like, "That's SE, something else."
Okay.
It made me laugh.
Well, enjoy it because it's cancelled.
You son of a bitch.
And unlike Brooklyn Nine-Nine, another network is not swooping in to save it. So.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but I was like, it kind of like. It made me feel bad for all these other shows where, like, oh, no one, like, cares about these other shows getting picked up. They're just like, oh, this show needs to get picked up. Someone quick. And it's like, hey, these other shows are good, too.
But I had the most love. I'm also hoping The Expanse gets a new home because that's a fantastic show. So hopefully someone picks that up. But hey, so that is us. Thank you once again for watching. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.